Okay, so Valve has finally responded to the controversy, which has a couple of Australian feminists that found a very offensive game on Steam. The game was actually designed to shock, it was designed to cause outrage, and apparently it did because activists who are grifters who claim that they're trying to improve society and, they would never talk about things like immigrants or the cartels or real life stuff, which is difficult. Instead, they pick on petty things such as video games, advertisements, like a lot of nonsense. And in exchange, they make millions of dollars. And unfortunately, they also empower credit card companies to be able to decide what you can and can't buy on the internet. And also, unfortunately, the young generation seems to function on if it doesn't affect me, then it's a good thing. In other words, well, I don't play these types of games. Yeah, probably a good thing that they don't exist. And then when the same credit cards start cracking down on guns, for instance, and, preventing the legal sale of firearms, the problem is that by that time, the original people that got initially upset over, I don't know, like the ban of certain adult games. It's not the fact that they can't play the games that upsets them the most. It's the principle of the matter. Like, there is an inconvenience caused in their life over people from a faraway place like Australia. And it's the audacity. It's the nonsense. Like, why do these harpies give a shit what I do in my bedroom? And when they go online and they complain, everyone shuts them the fuck up. Everyone tells them, oh, you're a degenerate, blah, blah, blah. And they just, get their games from someplace else, but they remember. They remember how they were treated. And then when the same stuff happens, like, for instance, the gun issue, right? Like the credit cards decide to stop payment processors from selling certain firearms or firearm accessories to people. Well, now the original individuals affected are happy, right? It's like, oh, now it's happening to you. Good. Fucking suffer. I don't care. All right? Or when the payment processors start cracking down on hate speech. You see people like Nigel Farage in Britain getting debanked because he's against immigrants. Well, the original people will be like, well, get what you fucking deserve. It's like, yeah, but we're actually talking about politics here, and, it's immigration, it affects all of us. I don't fucking care. You didn't care about me, get fucked. Yeah, but it affects you. Good. I'm willing to burn if it burns you as well. Suffer like me. Oh, like, how can you think like that? And what ends up happening, right, is the actual people get divided. There's no principle issue here. There's no matter of principle. And so you end up with a situation of divide and conquer, where the people that are affected are constantly arguing with each other. They hate each other, while the people at the top get what they want. The activist grifters get donations and money. Politicians get to be seen as if they're making change when in reality they aren't. And also, rich people manage to get a couple of tax write-off by donating to the grifters. And of course, more government control, so on and so forth, right? This is the story of our life. And this is why I care about this shit. But apparently, right now, Valve is forced to remove certain games, which, again, the difference between fiction and reality, which used to exist back in 2010, is no longer here. And if you don't differentiate between fiction and reality, we saw games like Ready or Not getting affected. We're going to see more games that, they don't necessarily have adult topics, but we're going to see actual games that aren't adult rated being affected. Because at the end of the day, what people are doing is they're glorifying the activist. They're normalizing censorship. And the activist has to make money. Like, the activists will never be happy. So when they get rid of the games that are adult and there's no more to be found, they will move to other topics. They will move to topics of, like, violence towards women. We already know this because it already happened. We already seen this in 2016. We already seen this in 2014, and it happened even before that in the 90s. Like, we already know the playbook. Why people are willing to dance to the activist tune and not just say, you know what? Fiction is fiction, go fuck yourself. Yes, I understand, like, there are some bad cases of fiction. You know what? We'll deal with that ourselves. We do not need the credit cards to step in. We do not need the activists that are grifting to be allowed to dictate morality to the rest of the world. You want that shit banned in Australia? That's good. But why are you suggesting that the rest of the world shouldn't read 50 Shades of Grey? Because yes, that's also one of the things they campaigned on. Or that the rest of the world shouldn't have Elon Musk's new companion waifu. Because yes, they're absolutely livid and they're concerned about AI not being lobotomized like ChatGPT used to be back in 3.5. And that's pretty much where we're going, right? Like by empowering these people, you end up just losing your liberties. You end up justifying payment processors deciding what goes on or not on the internet. You end up allowing them deciding political speech, allowing the certain politicians that can't pass legislation because they don't have the numbers to now just petition these activists in order to get what they want passed through other means, through the private sector. I generally don't understand why so many right-wingers support it, given the fact that in the last 10 years, right-wingers were the most persecuted people due to these things. Like the debanking, like how many right-wing content creators were deplatformed from social media, not necessarily because they were breaking social media rules, but because advertisers were threatening to pull out. And advertisers were being pressured by the same activist groups that are now pressuring the gaming community. Like, why is it so difficult to take a stance? Like, I know it's, not a pleasant conversation to have, and this is exactly why they're targeting the adult industry, because, they absolutely know no people will defend it. But as long as you say, look, fiction is fiction, fuck off, or you're willing to say, okay, fine, there are already laws in some countries that, for instance, ban underage characters even in fiction. Okay, blacklist those countries and move the fuck on, or if people engage in that stuff, it's up to the legal systems of those countries to crack down on it. It is not up to Visa and MasterCard to decide how the internet should function. It is not up for one country like Australia or the United Kingdom to impose their laws and morality on the rest of the internet. But anyway, right, so Steam actually feels bad about this, and I do think so, because they had no intention of doing this. In my opinion, Steam, out of all of the platforms, seem to be the ones that are the safest. In what way am I saying this? Well, in order to even see adult content, you have to click a box, which is pretty much out of the way. You don't even know the box exists unless you're being informed, right? And once you do that, you get access to the content, and then you need a credit card in order to buy the game. This is beyond common sense. This is beyond, a click, are you over 18? Oh, and it also checks the date that you used when you created the account. So, someone that's willing to jump through all these loopholes in order to get to see these games will probably jump through any loophole. Even if these games are banned, they will manage to find them. Because, again, you need to get out of their way in order to find them on Steam to begin with. And so, Steam had very specific rules. Number one, all the characters in your game had to be over 18. Number two, all of them had to look over 18. Number three, it was no bestiality, no necrophilia, no gore, and stuff like that. Again, they were very reasonable. No themes that take place in a high school, even if all the characters are adults, right? So, Steam was already very reasonable. It was already doing everything. And the fact that they're targeting Steam and not other websites, first of all, you shouldn't even go after petty shit like video games, in my opinion, It is what it is. Maybe I'm a little bit outdated. Maybe I do think that going after commercials, video games, TV shows is a little bit retarded. But okay, fine, I guess. Not everyone is like in Eastern Europe. Not everyone is a little bit more pragmatic and cynical. However, if you do decide to do that, Steam would be the last platform you'd want to go after, given the level of compliance and the level of good intention that it has. But no, they decided now that certain topics are not going to be allowed. We still don't know which they are. So far, a lot of games have been banned for covering topics of incest. Now, it sounds good on paper, right? But if you actually don't want to make a game that's slop, you actually want to make a game that has a story. The Coffin of Ashley and Lele, for instance, right? That got in trouble over the fact that one of the secret endings at the very end of the game, and it was even very difficult to get, it was implied that, they got into a sister and brother thing. the entire game now should be banned. Like all of the 95% that comes up until then, even if it's, something that people like. And not only that, but take into account of the concept of self-censorship, right? Because now it's not just like, okay, well, don't have incest in your game, right? Don't make Game of Thrones. Like, that's fine. Like, developers can be, all right, well, this is now sacred. Like, we're not allowed to do this in art, in fiction, ever. We're not allowed to have the Bible. Like, the Bible has incest after Sodom and Gomorrah. We're not allowed to depict that story from the Bible. Okay, fine. But, like, what else are they going to come up with? And apparently, hypnosis, right? Like, hypnosis, also not okay. Mind control. It's like, all right, so, like, what are we allowed to do in video games? At the end of the day, like most of these video games are not designed just to show smooth. Because if someone just wants to see smooth, like, they go and they watch an adult website. But if it's a video game with actual gameplay, like, let's say you're supposed to avoid Lady Dimitrescu from catching you in the castle. And if she catches you, she snooze you. Like, people would play that game, but are you allowed to make it? Well, probably not, right? Because, like, what if Visa and MasterCard tomorrow decides that that's haram? And again, like, this starts with adult, but it normalizes the concept that credit cards get to decide. And once that concept is normalized, then you end up with video games like, what was it called? Ready or Not, getting banned. You end up with more censorship because, again, like, even if you're not making an adult game developers are worried because they're like, okay, but, like, I want to sell my game on consoles. What am I and what am I not allowed to do? And you end up in a situation where you're not a creator anymore. You're not an artist. You don't just allow yourself to think about something interesting, like George R.R. Martin creates an interesting story and it's like, okay, let's see if people buy it. No, now you're trapped under a huge bureaucracy and you need to hire consultants and you need to hire proofreaders and you need to hire the HR hacks to make sure that your story is sanitized. And while this is happening, China is BTFOing you with all their games. Because they have strict rules and regulations. They don't allow adult, but at least, like, their rules are clear. They don't change from one day to another. So anyway, like, Steam is basically saying that they're really sorry about this. Nothing they can do. They're saying that they were notified that certain games may violate the rules set by their payment processors and their related card networks and banks. As a result, they are retiring those games from being sold on Steam because loss of payment methods would prevent customers from being able to purchase other titles and content. We are directly notifying developers of these games and issuing app credits should they have another game they like to distribute in the future. Again, people that were hoping that the indie industry is going to create a renaissance, I'm sorry to say it's not going to happen. I speak with indie developers that are not in the adult industry, and they're also worried. It's like, dude, I can invest $100,000 into making a semi-decent AA game. And then I can find out that due to some controversy, Steam doesn't want to sell it. Nobody wants to be the new Ready or Not. And this is the situation we're in. People just don't want to invest. They're too afraid. Hopefully things will change. But in order for that to happen, you would need a massive change of mindset. Like, people would need to start thinking differently. They will need to start saying, okay, fiction is fiction, for fuck's sakes. We're going to be dominated by Asia, Japan, and China, and South Korea if we don't stop worrying about the content in our entertainment. And again, the best example, and this is the last thing that I will say, is Game of Thrones. If you guys remember, Game of Thrones, first seasons, hugely popular, goes around the world. That's America's soft power. Like, America was dominating all of the other nations with their entertainment. Everyone was looking in awe. It's like, wow, Americans are really creative people. They are managing to make such entertaining shows. And then the activists complained. It's like, oh my goodness, it's got rape. Oh, it's Cersei and Jaime. Incest. And you can see what the last seasons of Game of Thrones were, and they speak for themselves. And if you look at it, literally the same controversy happened there. You have, like, the activists freaking out over this shit and causing the terms of service at the studio, like their inside team, to self-censor. And that's why you get to see the latest episodes look like shit, because they had to invite consultants, they had to invite proofreaders, and it was what it was. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in my live stream. Take care.